I appreciate being here, so I want to thank you all for letting me be up here and present for you guys. I get really excited because usually when I present to emergency management professionals, I know most of the faces. And today, there are a lot of faces here that I don't know. And that makes me really excited because emergency management is growing into other professions. And so just a little bit about myself. I'm an emergency management specialist for the city of Glendale. Yes, I did run the Super Bowl. It was chaos, and I'll tell you a little bit about how crazy planned events are. I'm also a professor at Arizona State University. I teach emergency management. So those that are interested in getting involved or maybe increasing your education, ASU just launched their first bachelor's program. It was a concentration in the bachelor's degree, and it's actually now its own degree at ASU, and so I'm proud to teach also for them. I'm very passionate about emergency management. I did my master's at ASU, and I started with Maricopa County Emergency Management, and now made my way all the way up to Glendale. And there's nothing I love more than taking care of you guys, the whole community. And so we'll just go through our slides, and I do want to apologize. I was supposed to present with Kirsten Vandeventer with Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community, and truly I would be doing a disservice if I presented on her slides. Our tribal nations are amazing, and there's so much uniqueness that they have, and so I told Kirsten this morning when she came down really sick that I had to quickly change the slides because I didn't want to present on behalf of them. And so I'm going to use my phone because I changed these slides at 10 o'clock this morning. So that's one thing with emergency management is that we learn to pivot really quickly. So the first thing I want to talk about is the whole community, and that's every single person sitting in this room. And I want to get to know you guys before I present. Can you just raise your hand if you're part of a healthcare organization? Awesome, most of you. And can you raise your hand if you're with a private agency? Okay, quite a few. And then raise your hand if you're with a government entity. Awesome. And raise your hand if you have not heard about emergency management. I hope to see no hands. And that's amazing. Every single person in this room, every person in our community, there is a different category of personnel, and we want to plan for all of you. And how do we do that? Because everyone's needs are so different. We follow a system called NIMS, which is the National Incident Management System, and ICS, the Incident Command Structure System. And those are amazing, and they were developed in pre and post 9/11, around the 2001 era. And I can go anywhere and sit in a position because we all know the same system. So I can deploy to where Kirsten is at the tribe, and I can deploy to Maricopa County, or I could deploy up into Flagstaff, and every single position is the same in support of an incident. And so that's what's really great is that I could even go out of state. The unfortunate situation in Maui right now, you could send anyone and deploy anyone following NIMS and ICS, and by using that, we support the whole community. There's a picture on the right, and that's got our structure of ICS. There's a couple different versions, but this is your very standard incident command system with your incident commander. If you were to have multiple agencies, you could have a MAC, which we do for Super Bowl. This would just be for one group, or you could have multiple unified commanders, which we have in a situation where you may have a police and a fire incident commander or something like that, but we call it ICS-like if it's not like this. And so under our incident commander, we have a public information officer. Who here has social media? Come on, I should see all of your hands go up. Whether it's your agency or you're following your mom, posting pictures of your babies, there's some sort of form of social media that you're connected to. And so we've had to integrate that into emergency response because where do you go to find out information, right? Who here tunes into radio still? Not many people. And so we've had to evolve as these systems go forward. And so we've added public information into our ICS. They post our social media for us. They connect with the news. And then under there is our safety officer and liaisons. And so liaisons would be if there was an emergency in the city of Glendale, and let's say it affected one of your healthcare facilities. I could pull in one of you into our EOC, and you'd be the liaison to explain to me what you need from our government. And then the safety officer makes sure we're safe. We're dealing with a crazy incident. You want to make sure you're safe. Then under there are our section chiefs. We have operations, planning, logistics, and finance. Those help us break out all the responsibilities, because if you didn't have them, you'd be running around like a chicken with your head cut off. You need a whole team. But the issue with this structure is that most of our emergency management staffings are a team of 1, 2, maybe 3. And so I was just talking to our table over here. We have to lean into each other, and that's why we have NIMS, an ICS system, is because I lean into my partners at all levels of government to staff those positions. And so it's important to learn that system and build relationships. And so that's why I opened with the whole community. You guys are so important. I can't do this alone. It's just me and the emergency manager at Glendale. And God forbid if something crazy happens, I don't have a staff for that whole ICS structure. And so we lean heavily into others. So that's the point I wanted to make across for that. So there's a lot of risks and threats for the state of Arizona as our community, and how does that come about? Do we even know how those are identified? And so what I want to tell you guys about is the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. This is made by a contractor funded by the federal government, and it's regional through our county. And so the county takes lead on writing this plan, and it incorporates every single city and town. And this is where we identify what our threats and hazards are and how we plan for emergencies and disasters. It's published on every 5 years. It's got a lot of good information, and you can access it on the county's webpage. So the fun stuff, the large-scale events. We're blessed at the city of Glendale. The NFL loves us. It's a big stadium, hosts a lot of people. It's a great location. We have great partners with Phoenix, who usually host the MAC, which is a multi-agency coordination center. And Super Bowl was one of the craziest events I've ever been part of. The NFL has endless amounts of money, and do you think the government gets it? No. And that's something crazy that I had no idea when I was brought on to support it. They have parties throughout the valley, and we have to plan for all of those events. And so how do you scale this down as a team of 2 to support an event this big? Multiple days, weeks. This actually was 18 months of planning for the Super Bowl. And so all of you play an important role with that planning. You do your job well, and we lean into you to as subject matter experts. Actually, Jennifer, the ACTIC lead, she was in the EOC with me that day. It was almost a 16, 18-hour day. It was wild. And so planning large-scale events all the way through small events is the same structure. And so it's really cool to see how the government, all the way up from the federal level, all the way down to a small city called Glendale in the state of Arizona that hosts this big, large event, we all have the same process that we follow to plan and prepare for with emergency management. And we're blessed. The Super Bowl, we were told by the NFL, was one of the most successful events that they've ever seen this past year with the Super Bowl. And I'm proud of every single person that had a big part of that. And I hope that we can continue to be partners in doing that with the Super Bowl. And so I want to talk about the personal preparedness side, because going all the way from taking care of yourself, the last group talked about, if our staff doesn't show up, we're in trouble because they're worried about themselves and they can't take care of their staff. So if I had staff saying there was an incident and they couldn't support me at Super Bowl, then we're not a prepared society. And so I want to talk about personal preparedness. Raise your hand here if you've ever heard of ready.gov. Awesome. You guys are a good crew. This is great. So ready.gov is an awesome resource, and I hope all of our emergency managers have explained this to you and brought it down. They have all the way down from personal preparedness, how to make a family plan, child plans, all the way through access and functional needs. How can we support our whole community? And so it's a really great website, and I wanted to point this out for you guys. If you don't have a family plan, like fire drills, our kids at school are doing fire drills. Are we doing them at home? We should be thinking about these things and preparing our families together. Do we have an in-state contact? Do we have an out-of-state emergency contact? Do people know in our family where our emergency items are kept in our home? Do you have a go bag? What do you keep in your go bag? I hear a lot of times people say they put MREs in there. You're not gonna eat that. Yucky, yucky, you're not gonna eat that. Get yourself a personal preparedness kit, put some top ramen in there, put some peanut butter in there, some things that you're actually gonna eat, because I see all of these companies making these go bags that are pre-purchased and you can get it for like $150 and it's got everything in it and the food's good for like 10 years. Y'all are not gonna wanna eat that food. Yuck. So my advice to you is once a month, pick out an item that maybe you think you wanna put in there and just start putting foods that you're gonna eat, your canned foods, canned corn, anything that you think you might wanna eat. I suggest you start putting it in your own personal preparedness bag. And do you keep one at home? Do you keep one at work? Do you keep one in your car? Funny story, I saw that we got a first aid kit here, and I have been part of the COPA crew for a while. They gave me it was like a first aid box, and I don't remember which conference it was, but I got a first aid box. And I actually did the 4 Peaks Challenge or the 5 Peaks Challenge with the city of Phoenix, where you hike 5 peaks in a day. It was like 20-something miles. Call me crazy, I don't know. But anyways, I did that, and on my way to my 5th peak, I watched a motorcycle driver with no helmet on get hit by a car and was laying there on the floor. And I had my first aid kit, my whole go bag in my car. I flew out of my car and I'm running to go help this man. And I'm prepared. I'm prepared for an incident. And so when you don't have preparedness strategies for things, you can't be helpful. And so it's one thing I want to talk to you guys about today is that if you aren't prepared, you can't help yourself or others. They always give that example of, when you get on an airplane, put the mask on yourself first, because if you can't help yourself, then you can't help others. And so go home today and talk about this with your family. How can you get yourself in a good place so that you can help others when necessary? There's a couple public alert and warning tools that I'd like to talk about. So how many of you have gotten a dust storm warning on your phone? So that's called a wireless emergency alert, and the National Weather Service has the license to send that to all of your phones. It's a blast public messaging text through the wireless emergency alert capability, and DPS can also do it for missing children, silver alerts, stolen cars. But who does it for emergency preparedness? Does anybody know? So, fun fact of the day, your friends over there in the corner, Maricopa County Emergency Management, they have the license to send out a wireless emergency alert. And so for Super Bowl, I actually built out I used my GIS team. I'm not that big brain, but I used my GIS team to draw polygons around the stadium, sent those to the county, and we had those pre-prepared and ready in the event something happened at the Super Bowl, that we could just launch off a message saying shelter in place or evacuate now. And we use the ready, set, go terminology. And so those wireless emergency alerts are really important to keep on your phone. A lot of people don't want to be bothered. They turn them off on their phone. I highly suggest you check your phone and make sure you have those on. And there's also another feature, if you scroll, I believe, on your phone, you can turn on the tests. So you can also get the test messages too. There is reverse 911. Who here still has a landline? You guys are really cool kids, because not many have those anymore. So reverse 911 automatically goes to landlines. If you have a cell phone, you have to register it. And so there's this transition of technology where there was a system in place when everyone had a landline. You were stuck to the cord, walking over here, talking to your boyfriend while your mom's over here, the door's shut. We don't have that anymore. And so what do we put in place to get rid of these messages, or how do people still get emergency messages? Well, that's why wireless emergency alerts came in place, because nobody has a landline anymore. What else is on there? There's a FEMA mobile app. I put that up there. Most governments have a local level, so I highly suggest trying to find your local level app, but there is a FEMA one. It gives you federal alerts. I suggest you find a local level. I think that's good. And then the EAS is what comes across your TV. I don't know if you guys have ever heard it go, burr, burr, burr. You have an emergency alert. That's what the EAS is, but it's all part of the wireless emergency alert system and integrated public alert and warning. I just wanted to provide some resources. I've kind of already touched on these. So you have FEMA, that's your Federal Emergency Management Agency. You have AZDEMA, which Gabe was supposed to present today. He's from the State Emergency Management Agency. If you're in Maricopa County, you have County Emergency Management. And then all the way down at the local level, you have your city and town EM. So you have a lot of resources to dip into. Your personal preparedness is ready.gov. Some general emergency management you can get at the public health website as well. We all know that with COVID, we experienced a lot of emergency messages, and so your public health is a great resource as well. Where I think actually most of you guys, if you have houses, group homes and stuff, you have to provide that information of your emergency plan to the county. I believe most of you have to do that. And then I put AZEIN. Did you guys know about this service? It's called the Arizona Emergency Information Network. So we talked about those public information officers, the PIOs. This is where they post a lot of our emergency information, and they all tie together with the Ready, Set, Go terminology. And that is my contact. I really want to thank you all for letting me come up today. I was really excited to do it with Kirsten, just to explain the connection of tribal emergency managers all the way to Super Bowl, the craziness, the Taylor Swift City. At the end of the day, all of the things that we do, whether it's really small, all the way up to large scale events like Super Bowl or the Maui incident, that's going to be a forever recovery. It doesn't matter how you do it, it's all through NIMS and ICS. And so as we continue our training, and I highly recommend you guys taking some emergency management classes, lean into your EM partners, and we're all the whole community, and so we're grateful to have you part of it. Just be prepared and protect yourselves, protect others, and that's what I got for you guys today. Thank you.
Well, everybody, once again, another big round of applause. Did we have any questions?
Got some dead mics.
Do you know of any resources for simple ICS trainings, like for volunteers, like a half hour or an hour that won't bore them to tears? And
Yes. So there are federal independent studies. There's ICS 100, there's ICS 200, 700, and 800. Those are all your basic emergency management courses. I would suggest, if you have a group of people that are very unfamiliar, sorry, I'm short, I don't know if y'all can see me. I would suggest, and I've heard a lot of people have this complaint, is that you go through ICS 100 as a group. Have someone instruct it in your agency that may be able to talk about it, or lean into your emergency manager if you need, and have them all log in and go through the class together. Because I've heard people say, it is drier than the Arizona desert. It is. And until you can connect the two with real world situations, and they're not necessarily gonna use the ICS training a whole lot, it's just good for them to hear the knowledge. For people that are better learned in visuals and in person, I would just advise that you go through those trainings as a group rather than just self-assigning. Yeah.
And I will also suggest that you reach out to Jeff or me, because we put this conference together. I actually remember back when I went through the training, it was Mr. Damiani there, who's going to be up later, who did the training. And I know Stan is also very adept at that. So there are people that come out and make it not so dry. It's like we get that one rainy day in Arizona every year. They really, make it interesting and fun. And they give you real world examples too, which I really like. I was really confused when I first learned about it with who is the incident command trainer? Well, it's whoever is the most capable person there right when you get there. But then when somebody else shows up, they may be more capable, so they will take over.
Any other questions?
Over here, Gil.
Oh, you got it?
Gil.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could say more about the specific role of the operations planning and logistics.
Absolutely. So operations is usually, it depends on the incident. So let's go with like a wildland fire as our scenario. Your operations is someone that's going to be in connection with someone that's on boots on the ground, and they get the full picture of what's happening there and identifying what their needs are. Once they know what their needs are, they lean into logistics. Logistics gets water, snacks, type 1, 2, 3 FEMA typed trucks. Logistics is the group that is going to pull any type of resource that you may need, whether it's your local contract or you have to reach all the way up through different levels of government. They find those resources that operations needs. Finance tracks and logs everything that they expend through the logistics, requirements, whatever they're asking for. Well, what does that cost? And then, what was the other? Planning. That's the one that I usually get deployed for. And I'm currently actually on one right now. I'm on my 4th week of a huge incident. I don't know if you guys saw it in the news, the recycle yard fire that happened in Glendale 4 weeks ago. Big smoke, a lot of things caught fire. It actually rekindled over 10 times. And 100,000 gallons of oil, and our fire trucks were sliding down the road. But the planning is you think 10 steps ahead. And so I write the incident action plan, who's working what position, what are our objectives, what are our operational period command emphases, what are we focusing on for the week ahead, and I publish that plan. And then it provides the staff exactly what they're supposed to do for the week. So the planning piece is a week ahead or an operational period ahead. So if it was 24-hour operational periods, they'd be writing it for the next day. So the staff comes in, knows what their tasks are to do, and then they just publish that and run meetings, objective meetings, et cetera. So.
I know we also have Jamie Bouvet, is it? From as chair here, and he is ASCHAIR is a fantastic organization. Maybe you could tell people a little bit about ASCHAIR.
Okay, the coalition has been made up from HHS, then it goes down to ADHS, and we could work through a grant. We help healthcare and hospitals in emergency preparedness for training. I'm the training and exercise manager for the state, for the coalition, and we do have all that emergency management courses on our website. We have one course this next week is the HVA. So if you don't know what an HVA is, hazard vulnerability assessment, we could actually teach you what it is and how to do it in your own facility. It's a 2-hour course. It's free. You just go to our website, you sign up for the course itself, and we do have ICS 100, 200. We teach all that all through the year.
Fantastic. And what we will try to do is get this information out to everybody for ASCHAIR, for other organizations, but there are a lot of free resources out there for healthcare companies, nonprofits, organizations, especially when you're talking about assessments and, just learning the vernacular. I remember when I first realized, I think everybody realizes the importance of a public information officer, but I remember how important it is during an emergent situation. Something wrong gets said, and that affects people's lives. So the incident command-based training is just a fantastic thing to go through, and I think that as Chair Jamie back there said, they've got some stuff available too, so fantastic.
Yeah, and if you're looking for upper level courses, the State Department of Emergency and Military Affairs has a training branch, and they have a system, a portal where you can enroll in courses. So I'll be sure to provide that to them if you guys want to enroll in any of the courses that are available through the state.
One other thing I want to mention, because we got a little bit of time here.
Were there any other questions?
Oh, any other questions?
Because
Back
then I
there.
can get out of your way.
That's why I'm here, right? Sorry about that. There is a course for disaster preparedness for hospitals and healthcare
can't talk. Healthcare organizations that's happening this month from the 19th to the 20th. You can register on the state's website. I believe there are still some seats open, and it's a very, very good course to take. So just
Awesome. Thank
not
you,
a
Joseph.
question, just PSA.
Any other questions for me?
I had one quick one, Maddie.
Yeah.
What was the coolest part of the Super Bowl for you? I know it has nothing to do with emergency preparedness, but
All right, here's the story. The day before, we had a group of people called VPSO, visiting public safety officials, something, I don't know. Very important people. They came through, like the NFL head of security, and this coming year, the NFL's group that's going to have the Super Bowl this year. I'm talking like 25 to 30 people came through the EOC the day before, and one taps me on the shoulder and goes, "Maddie, I need a conference room stat." And I said, "Okay, what's going on?" We pivot. And they said, "There's a real world situation going on. The Kinder Morgan pipeline has been shut down, including diesel fuel, I don't even know, jet fuel, and regular petrol." And we were like, okay, what does that mean for us? Well, everyone is in the state of Arizona because we have the Waste Management Open happening, we have Super Bowl happening, and now we have no fuel. How do we keep this out of the news? Because then everyone is going to go to the gas station and fill up their car, and it's going to create mass panic. Well, imagine the phone call I have to make to the White House when the First Lady is coming in town on a private jet with her grandson, and I tell them they need enough fuel to come in and to leave. Wasn't a good phone call. And so that was pretty interesting, working an incident that we've been planning 18 months for the Super Bowl. Scenarios such as water's been contaminated and now everyone's sick. A possible aircraft landing, because there's Glendale Airport right next to the stadium, an airplane landing near the stadium. I mean, we came up with a million ideas, but the real world, it doesn't ever work that way. And I always joke, you tell God your plans and he laughs at you. And that's what the Super Bowl was, because I never wanted to call the White House telling them that the First Lady had to find her way out. And so the pipeline ended up getting turned back on, but we didn't know if it was nefarious. We had no idea what was going on. They just found a leak. And so they put the pipeline back on, and we were very scared about what that was going to mean. The state even told us our surplus went down from like 14 days to 5 of gas. And so just working those incidents, learning how to pivot, and learning how to deal with the emergency as it comes is a huge challenge. Nothing I was prepared for, but we just dealt with it. And so those are some of the crazy stories that we experienced.